David Parker Ray, a serial killer who was never convicted of a single murder. How does that work? This guy was responsible for carrying out some of the most depraved acts across the Southwest. You've probably already heard about the toy box of horrors, the infamous audio recordings, the assaults, and this mustache. But how does that earn you a 224-year prison sentence? Let's find out. In this episode, I'm looking into David Parker Ray, aka the Toy Box Killer. I did a road trip through the States a while back. Beautiful country you guys got down there. But guys, I gotta ask, who's naming your towns and cities? Intercourse, Pennsylvania. Ding Dong, Texas. Bald Knob, Arkansas. Why? Sorry, that wasn't a question. There's actually a town in Arizona called Why. So today, we're taking a trip to hell. No, not Hell, Michigan. Nah, we're going to good old Truth or Consequence, New Mexico. Truth or Consequence. And trust me, it's a hell of a lot worse than hell.
Truth or Consequences has kind of an undercurrent of criminal activity. We investigated a murder where a guy beat his wife and put her in the trunk of the car and burned her in the car. Then there was a man found dead in his apartment, blue panties on and no other clothes. He had a doorknob inserted in his rectum. This is just a community where strange and bizarre crimes occur.
Getting older is a bitch. But if you're going through a midlife crisis or a divorce and you got like $100,000 to burn, why wouldn't you just buy a Mustang or build a man cave?
Oh, I know. I put the bark lounger in the center of the room, throwing everybody off.
It's a great room.
Instead of fashioning a DIY mobile sex dungeon like David Parker Ray. I don't get it. Aren't you supposed to show these things off? He didn't even drive it around town. It just sat parked in his backyard, giving off that extra creepy serial killer vibe. I mean, sure, he still got a lot of use out of it, but shouldn't you show it off a little?
Hey ladies, check out this ride.
Why do you think old Willie Picton, a guy who looked like this, opened Piggy's Palace Good Time Society, the most rockin' country western bar in British Columbia? That was Willie's midlife crisis purchase, and it worked. The guy had women flocking to his trailer. Granted, they were sex workers that he paid in meth, but you get the picture. Still, you'd be surprised. Old Ray was kind of a ladies' man. He managed to find 4 women to marry him. Some guys can't even find one. Sure, he was also divorced 4 times too, but this gotta count for something. His last girlfriend, she was a piece of work. Imagine for a second that your hobbies consist of DIY, kidnapping, torture, sexual assault, and murder. What are the odds you're gonna find a partner who's into the same shit?
I can get behind that.
Somehow the guy managed to land a girlfriend who was more than open to his alternative lifestyle. Cindy Hendy. Now, I know that women make up a big portion of our viewership, so here goes. Ladies, think back to the time you met that special someone. What did you talk about? Maybe they told you how beautiful you look. Maybe made you smile with a well-placed joke.
I was hoping to get good night late.
Okay, now ask yourself, would things have gone the same way if your partner opened up by bragging about all the women he's sexually assaulted and murdered? Okay, listen to this. This is a direct quote from Cindy's testimony about when she first met David.
He started to tell me all the women he had murdered. He said at least one a year for about 40 years.
You know how it is. First dates can be awkward. Sometimes, us guys stumble over, like we stumble over our words and what we're trying to say to you it doesn't come out quite right.
My density has popped me to you.
What?
Let's see. There's gotta be just an innocent explanation here. So, murdered one woman a year for 40 years. Murdered one woman a year for 40 years. Maybe he meant to say he muttered one word a year for about 40. He muttered one word a year for about 40 years. I mean, he seems like the strong silent type, don't you think? No, that can't be right, because then he told her he knew how to kill someone and bury them in a lake, which turned her on.
Oh, yeah.
Cindy. Cindy said that David told her the thing to do is cut them down the belly, scoop out their guts, fill the chest cavity with cement weights, or as he probably said, cement weights, and then use baling wire to wrap them up. Well, I guess if you're into bad boys, then that could be your thing. You could treat them like one of your projects.
I think I can change him.
The stakes are pretty high, though, so you'd better tame them quick, or there's 100% chance you're gonna wind up in the toy box.
You've been snatched and brought here for us to trade and use as a sex slave. Sound kind of far out? I suppose it is to the uninitiated, but we do it all the time.
Yeah. That's a re-recorded excerpt from the infamous initiation tape that he played for his victims.
I'm going to tell you in detail why you have been kidnapped, what's going to happen to you.
If you have trouble sleeping too well and you're looking for a way to wake up in cold sweats, be my guest and listen to the full recording. I can't play it here because I'm trying to grow this channel, not get myself banned from YouTube for life. The only good thing about the recording is that it basically blew Ray's claims of consensual sexual activity out of the water.
I get my excitement from making a woman happy. My trailer had numerous sex toys in it of different types. I did what they wanted me to do.
Remember, this guy was never convicted of murder. Sure, Cindy claimed they dismembered a handful of victims together and dumped them in Elephant Lake, but no bodies were ever found. So whether or not they were actually killing women, the kidnapping and torture all came to an end in March 1999 when a captive stabbed Cindy in the neck with an ice pick and took off running through the streets of Truth or Consequences, naked with a dog collar and chain wrapped around her neck. Talk about luck. Of all the modified tools in his shed, she manages to grab the only object that wasn't retrofitted with a 9-inch rubber dildo. I mean, look at this. Is that a Soviet-era vintage Geiger counter? You gotta be pretty creative to look at a vintage Geiger counter and think to yourself, I got a sneaking suspicion you could use this thing to probe for a lot more than radiation. It reminds me of like a perverted version of Sid from Toy Story or something. Remember that scene where all the toys Sid tortured, mutilated, and modified rose from the mud to seek revenge? Well, if you just swap the army men, trucks, and Barbies with vibrators and sex toys, you should have a pretty good idea of what Ray's backyard looked like.
We toys can see everything.
Only, I guess, if Ray's toys came to life, yeah, they'd literally fuck him to death. On another note, small town New Mexico in the 90s sounds wild. Listen to this testimony I came across from a surviving victim while I was doing the research for this episode. The woman attested that after she fought with her husband and went to play billiards with her friends, her beer was drugged and she was knocked unconscious. She was tortured for 2 days to the point of numerous blackouts before her throat was cut deeply and she was left to die on the side of a road. The police found her account too outlandish, and her husband, assuming she cheated on him, filed for divorce before she moved to Colorado. If I was a cop and a woman with a slit throat held up this guy's photo and told me he sexually assaulted her, I'm turning on the cherries and sirens, blasting through every red light to lock him up. He looks like a 6-foot version of Yosemite Sam.
Yosemite Sam!
Put a cowboy hat on him and swap out the 6 shooters for 2 4-speed dildos, and you got a damn near perfect match. I'd get it if the police were having a hard time believing that a LARPing gynecologist was cruising around the desert in a mobile sex dungeon with more sex toys than a porn set in Sodom and Gomorrah. Anyone would have a hard time believing that. But when you stumble upon a woman covered in glitter and bruises with a slit throat, that sounds outlandish. Fuck how it sounds. It's the looks that count. I can see her slit throat, but I don't like the sounds of it. Did they think she faked the slit throat from ear to ear?
Wanna know how I got these scars?
Fortunately, however, the cops did take this call seriously.
I'm calling for a young lady that ran into the house. She says she's just been raped. She's got her chain on her and everything. Send someone right away.
Yep. That call is what led police straight to Ray's door. Initially, the cops were a little skeptical. But after opening the door to Ray's toy box, it was pretty obvious that the woman was telling the truth. Just look at this place. I guess you could make the argument that he was just into BDSM, but when you play back the tape, it's pretty obvious that there was nothing consensual about this place.
You were obviously here against your will. Totally helpless. Don't know where you're at. Don't know what's going to happen to you.
In the end, the police think this monster assaulted, tortured, and murdered as many as 60 women across the Southwest. But unfortunately, we'll never know. After serving just 8 months of his 224-year prison sentence, David Parker Ray died of heart failure. So what do you think? Should bragging about sexually assaulting and murdering women on the first date be considered a red flag? Let me know in the comments below. And of course, don't forget to murder that subscribe button and hit that notification bell, because I've got new killer content dropping all the time. And if you just can't get enough, you can also head over and follow on Instagram and even TikTok for even more killer content.